Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu, and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT13, and BT13 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is a little bit more on the casual side, but it's still a really fun deck to play around with because of all of the different things we could do with the deck to customize it and take advantage of all of the different mechanics and abilities the deck is playing around with, which is going to be the blocker ability, the reboot ability, the on-delete ability, and the effectiveness at being able to play out Digimon by card effects, so we could pair all of those up with various different other cards to best support all of the mechanics the deck is trying to work with. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I am going to be running only 4 copies of Pagumon. Pagumon from BT6 is still one of the best generic Digitamas that Black has to work with, especially for this deck because we are playing around with on-delete effects, which this card has an inheritable on-delete effect for us to take advantage of at adding some extra consistency into the deck when our Digimon eventually gets deleted. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Junkmon. So Junkmon is a tech or flex spot for the deck, and it could really be anything you want it to be, but I do like having more inheritable on-delete abilities for us to take advantage of for when our higher stage Digimon gets deleted. We have more effectiveness on our cards with, and this card just helps with memory manipulating shenanigans when our Digimon does get deleted. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of White PawnChessmon. So White PawnChessmon, even though the evolution cost is a little bit more expensive than your average level 3, that's okay, because half the time we're just going to be playing it from our hand to try to form that secondary stack, or play it for free off of our various other Chessmon abilities. But even at worst, if we do need to digivolve into this card, it's still a pretty good choking tool on the first turn to try to make sure that we could try to make the opponent's turn as inefficient as we can possibly make it and give them as little resources as possible. But regardless, the PawnChessmon here is really good for having the inheritable ability of Reboot, which we want to pair up with Digimon that have the native blocker ability to be able to have blocker Reboot Digimon to make some offensive and defensive lines of play. But the most important aspect of the Chessmon cards is their native on-delete ability that we want to take advantage of for when they actually do get deleted, if they do, allowing us to be able to replace themselves and have a sticky board presence. So if this Digimon gets deleted during your turn, then you get to play a level 3 or lower Chessmon named Digimon from our hand for free, and if we have 8 or more Digimon with Chessmon in their name in our trash, then we get to add 2 to the maximum level that this effect is able to play, allowing us to play up to a level 5 Chessmon, which is just really strong at being able to make sure we could maintain that board presence. And that's why I'm also going to be running 4 copies of the Black PawnChessmon. So the Black PawnChessmon has the native ability of blocker, so that way we have some more defensive lines of play. All of the black line of Chessmon are going to have the blocker ability, and all of the white line is going to have the reboot inheritable ability. So what the only real difference between the cards is how the on-delete abilities are actually going to be triggering, because the white line is going to be triggering during your turn, but the black line is going to be triggering during the opponent's turn, allowing us to still be able to play out our level 3 or lower Digimon with Chessmon in its name from our hand. And then, like the White PawnChessmon, if we have 8 or more cards with Chessmon in its name in our trash, we get to play an increased level up to 2, so that way we could play more potential different Chessmons off of these Chessmons getting deleted. And then when it comes to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of KnightChessmon. So this is the white KnightChessmon, and we're still trying to take advantage of the fact that it's going to have the inheritable reboot ability on top of that on-delete ability where during your turn, so you want to be aggressive with these cards, then we get to play a level 4 or lower Digimon with Chessmon in its name from our hand for free, allowing us to essentially replace itself. And that same sentiment is true carried over to the Black KnightChessmon that I'm also going to be running 4 copies of. So just like with the black PawnChessmon, it's going to have the on-delete ability that triggers during the opponent's turn for allowing us to replace a level 4 or lower Digimon with Chessmon in its name, again having that sticky body and board presence, while it also, like all of the other black Chessmons, having the native blocker ability for more defensive lines of play. And then onto the level 5s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of BishopChessmon. So BishopChessmon is in the white Chessmon line, so it's going to have that inheritable ability of reboot, while having that same on-delete type of ability that's going to trigger during our turn, being able to play a level 5 or lower Chessmon named Digimon for free, allowing us to try to have as sticky body and board presence as we can possibly have. Which is why I'm also going to be running 4 copies of RookChessmon, being the level 5 in the black Chessmon line, so it has that native blocker ability on top of the on-delete ability that's going to be triggering during the opponent's turn to play a level 5 or lower Chessmon named Digimon from our hand for free as well. And then the last level 5 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Mamemon. So this is the BT11 version of Mamemon, and this is going to be the card we want to use to try to set up our tamers, because we are going to be playing a decent number of tamers. So the likelihood of this card actually having success for when we play it or digivolve up into it to be able to get its ability to reveal the top 5 cards of our deck and play any color tamer among them that has a play cost of 4 or less for free, just allows us to be able to have more effective and efficient ways at the ability to try to play our tamers as efficient as we possibly can. Then it has a nice inheritable ability that the deck really can take advantage of, where during your turn, once per turn, when another Digimon is played by an effect, which does trigger with our Digimon replacing themselves with their own on-delete effects, then one of our Digimon gains the blocker ability until the end of the opponent's turn, having access at even more defensive lines of play, rewarding us for our Digimon's effects going off. And then when it comes to the level 6 lineup, I'm going to be running 4 copies of JumboGamemon. So JumboGamemon is just one of the best level 6 Digimon this deck can play around with, especially if we're trying to take advantage of the fact that we want our Digimon to be played by card effects. So he just natively has the blocker ability, which paired up with the reboot obviously allows us to have some good offensive and defensive lines of play, especially because of his other ability that triggers during the opponent's turn, where it's not limited to once per turn, so whenever an opponent's Digimon attacks, we get to play a level 5 or lower Digimon from its Digivolution source, regardless of color, for free. So the more the opponent attacks while JumboGamemon is on the field with a large stack, then the more Digimon we're able to split out, and that allows us to do various different things with our Digimon. And then the last level 6 of the deck is going to be more of a supporting level 6, and that's going to be 2 copies of WarGreymon Ace. So WarGreymon Ace is a really interesting card just because it's trying to actually take advantage of the Ace mechanic, which is paired up with the hand counter Blast Digivolution ability to be able to digivolve it into this card during the opponent's turn for free. Then it does come with the hefty drawback of having an overflow ability, where when the card would leave the battle area, then we lose 4 memory, essentially giving the opponent 4 memory. So there is that push and pull dynamic on how you want to utilize this card. But the fact that we do have the ability to maintain level 5 Digimon on our field makes it super easy and efficient to use it in this style of deck versus other style of decks where they might not be able to keep and maintain their level 5s on the field, just because the counter timing on these ace cards is when the opponent's Digimon is attacking after all of their when attacking abilities are over. So if we have a level 5 Digimon after that timing window, that allows us to then digivolve into this card. And this card, like JumboGamemon, has the blocker ability, so we could pair that up with reboot for, again, another reboot blocker, on top of the fact that it has a nice all turns ability that triggers once per turn. When either player's security is reduced, then we get to unsuspend this Digimon, so we could have a card that could potentially block multiple times if the opponent is trying to swing out a lot. So we have alternative ways on being able to defend ourselves no matter what level 6 we're actually going into. And then when it comes to the tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of TK. So this is the BT1 version of TK, and this is going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixing tamer. This is kind of another tech or flex spot, and it could be whatever memory fixing tamer you want it to be, but I do like TK just because it's adding some extra consistency on being able to try to find our Chessmon cards in our security. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Miki and Megumi. So this is going to be the more inline tamer for the deck because it has the on-play ability to be able to play out a PawnChessmon from our hand for free. So this just allows us to have easier setups at being able to play out our Digimon. Then it even has a nice resource engine attached inside of it, where when we're playing out our 2-color black and yellow Digimon, which are going to be all of our Chessmons, then we could suspend this tamer to be able to draw 1 card and gain 1 memory, so we could use this during our turn to make our cards more efficient, or use it during the opponent's turn to make some of their cards and their plays less efficient. Which is why I'm going to be running 4 copies of Keenan. So the BT13 Keenan is absolutely an insane card that's super splashable in a lot of decks that want to be able to play Digimon by card effects, especially during the opponent's turn. So its on-play ability isn't anything too special, but it could still be helpful by allowing us to try to have the opponent either discard a tamer or an option card from their hand, or if they don't, then it's just giving us our resources back by allowing us to draw a card and gain a memory, making him effectively 2 to hard play, and replacing himself when we play him. Then the main appeal of this card is that secondary ability that triggers during the opponent's turn, where when an effect plays a Digimon, then we get to suspend this tamer to be able to gain a memory. So the more Keenans we have on the field, the more memory we're going to be gaining during the opponent's turn when our Digimon gets played by card effects, which we have lots of different ways to trigger thanks to our on-delete abilities and thanks to our JumboGamemon, and even potentially thanks to Miki and Megumi, our other tamer. Then when it comes to the options, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Chaos Degradation as the main removal option for the deck. So literally outside of the blocker mechanic, we don't really have a whole lot of ways to be able to deal with some of the opponent's Digimon and some of their threats, so having an option helps shore up that weakness a little bit. So Chaos Degradation is just one of the most powerful options that we could run thanks to the Keenan tamer being purple and all our other tamers being part yellow. Then what this card is doing is it's allowing us to take one of the opponent's Digimon, shove it into their security, either at the top or the bottom, and then trash the top card of their security, so that way we could effectively deal with the opponent's main threat. Then it's also a really solid security ability where even though it's not going to be trashing a card from the opponent's security, just the fact that being able to throw the opponent's Digimon at the top or bottom of their security still is going to be getting rid of the problem for the most part, and that's what we're trying to gain out of this card, is just having some good removal inside of the deck. And then the last option of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Black Memory Boost, just for some extra consistency and power plays thanks to its main ability to dig for any Black Digimon off of the top 4, while setting up its secondary ability of Delay to be able to gain it to memory at a later turn to make more powerful follow-up plays with. And then when it comes to the overall game plan and gameplay of the deck, it is just trying to make your cards as efficient and effective as you can possibly make them based on the abilities that you're going to be playing around with. So you're going to want to try to set up your tamers, mainly your Keenan and your Miki and Megumis, as early as you possibly can, because then you're going to be able to gain the most out of their abilities to mostly try to anti-tempo the opponent when our cards are being played for free off of our own card effects. When it comes to how we're going to be utilizing our rookies and our level 3s, most of the time you're going to want to try to use your off level 3 as the one in your raising area, so we can have as many Chessmons in our hand to be able to use for when they're going to be replacing themselves. But if you do need to use a PawnChessmon in your raising area, then it's not that bad either, as a good choking tool to be able to put the opponents to 1, or to use just to try to make certain lines a little bit more efficient through the de-efficiency of the card. So most of the time, what we're going to want to use these cards, though, is, again, to be played off of our card effects, and this is why setting up a Miki and Megumi, especially early on, is going to be super important. So let's just say we do have our off Digimon in our raising area, then we could hard slam a Miki and Megumi, give the opponent 4 memory, play any of our Chessmon cards, and then use that ability to suspend ourselves, gain a memory, and be able to draw a card, effectively replacing the Chessmon that we just used and making it transactionally in terms of memory the same as if we were to just hard play a Chessmon. So it is just more efficient to be able to get this set up so that way we could gain more advantage and benefit from it later on. But when it comes to our off Digimon, this is kind of why I like Junkmon, so I could try to actually build something in the raising area. So I could Digivolve into a Knightmon. Ideally, I want it to be White Knight, so I could Digivolve into Rook and be able to move out a Digimon with blocker reboot, that when it gets deleted, I'll be able to gain a memory and potentially draw an extra card from, on top of anything else that it's going to be doing from me being able to play a Digimon by RookChessmon's card effect. So this is kind of how I want to build my stack in raising. And then when it comes to actually utilizing our Chessmons, the white Chessmon line is going to be the main offensive backbone of the deck. So that way we could try to chip at the opponent's security. If our Digimon lives, that's where we're going to want to try to Digivolve into the black line. So that way it's going to gain access at that blocker and reboot ability to try to be as annoying towards the opponent as we possibly can be. And then if our Digimon does swing into the opponent's security and dies, then it's basically going to allow us to replace itself with either a new version of itself or the opposite black line that we want to be working with, so that way we have defensive lines of play after being offensive with our Digimon. And that's kind of the back and forth that we're going to be doing with a lot of our cards, is the white line is going to be aggressive, and then the black line is going to be the defensive cards. So once we get up into our level 5s, we kind of just want to stay on our level 5s as best as we possibly can, so we could use them to go into either of our level 6s. So if we go into our JumboGamemon, then ideally we want him to have reboot, so we could swing with our JumboGamemon and then reboot him so that way he can be able to block, on top of be able to play out a Digimon from his inheritable sources for free, which if we do that, then we could use the fact that we could spawn extra level 5s, either off of our level 5s or off of our JumboGamemon, to be able to line up an ace play to, again, further try to stop what the opponent is potentially doing. And War Greymon Ace is actually a pretty decent card because we could potentially be offensive with this card as well. So we could swing into the opponent's security, trigger his ability when a card is removed from a security stack to unsuspend, and basically get an extra swing with. So we are also kind of taking that approach with our level 6s in terms of what is going to be offensive and what is going to be defensive. But the main important thing of this type of ability is the fact that it's going to be playing around with our tamers to be able to potentially generate some extra memory and force end the opponent's turn. So the more Keenans that we have and the more Miki and Megumis that we have on our field, when we get into our JumboGamemon stack, then the more memory we could potentially take away from the opponent. So let's just say the opponent is going to swing, then we could use a JumboGamemon to be able to play out a Digimon for free. If that Digimon was a Chessmon, then we could use this to gain a memory and draw a card, and then we could use this to also gain a memory, effectively taking away memory from the opponent. And this also works with our level 5s and all of our other Digimon as well, for if they're going to be deleted during the opponent's turn. So let's just say we have our Rook, then our Rook is going to get deleted. We could play out our Bishop and then try to force end the opponent's turn based on how many tamers that we have set up to try to take away the opponent's memory. And that's kind of the core strength of the deck, is being able to maintain a body and take away the opponent's memory, really limiting the actions that the opponent is allowed to do against us. The core of the deck is really just coming from all of the usage of our Chessmon cards, and that's going to make up the bulk majority of what the deck is trying to do. Then as far as some other tech cards we could think about running and including, just because we do have enough space for various different tech and tools, depending on the cards you have access to, what the meta is going to be, and the types of abilities you want to be playing around with, we do have a decent amount of options. So because we could just run off a rookie, or we might not want to digivolve into our pawns at all, we could just use something like the Guillemon Draw Engine as a good splash or tech package to just have access at more card draw. Then we do have a couple of different black floodgates that we could think about running, as well as a whole bunch of different security Digimon, while also trying to make our security a little bit more threatening at the same time. Then, because all of our Chessmons are two-color Digimon, we could even think about teching in Tapermon as another really good off Digimon to just try to have some extra DP boosting, because the deck doesn't have that normally. Then we do have just some other really solid generic black Digimon, like Espimon, as just another way to be able to try to help it draw some extra cards when he's getting played. Then on top of that, we do have various other Digimon that we could play inside of the deck that still kind of just work well enough, like Mercurymon, not only for being a hybrid and we could tech in more black tamers to use him with, but because of JumboGamemon, we could also get his on playability off as well. Then because we are trying to build and maintain bodies, we could do the same thing as our level 5s with our level 4s, which just allows Chimeramon to be a super useful card. Then as far as the other level 6s, if you just wanted to play pure Chessmon, you could just run the King and Queen Chessmon. Not only are they more Chessmons for the deck, but they do have their own native synergies with the deck as well. I just don't necessarily think they're doing anything super hyper powerful that's really worth playing around with. Queen is probably the best of the two if you wanted to use them, though. But we also do have cards like Digimon that just help want to spawn some extra bodies on the field. Then we do have some various different level 7s that we can include into the deck, like Omnimon Zwart, Quartzmon, or even Deathexmon, all depending on what you want to try to gain and what you're trying to use. Then we do have some various different options in both black and yellow that we can tech into. So we do have Ultimate Flare as just another generically good black removal card. Then we do have Lone K, and we even have Flame Hellscythe as other really good cards that we could tech into just to have the ability to try to deal with some of the opponent's threats alternatively. Hellscythe is not necessarily the best removal card, but could help play our low-level Digimon for free by an effect, which could then trigger our Tamer's ability as well. Then as far as some other tamers we could tech into, we do have Izzy and Joe for some extra card draw, especially if the opponent is deleting our Digimon, on top of maybe potential some extra memory generation. Then if we are leaning into the Tapir package, then we could play Maki just to try to help round out that package and make digivolving into our two-color Digimon a little bit more efficient. Then if we are able to maintain extra bodies on the field, we could even go and use something like Alice McCoy to interact with the fact that we do have on-delete effects that we could trigger to replace our Digimon, while being able to make going up into our higher stage Digimon a little bit more efficient. So you can see between all of the different mechanics that the deck is playing with, it does have a decent amount of depth and variety on what we could potentially do. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.